And we had this epiphany where we're like, we're not broke. We got a ton of money, but we don't ever see it because Peter, Paul, Jimmy, Susie, and Larry is getting all the money.
A lot of people will, again, give you excuses why they're not investing. That means they're not making any money. Or some people may say, hey, you should do this when they're not doing it with their own money.
And can you afford your day-to-day expenses without credit? Now, if you answered no to this question, then maybe it's because one of two things.
Well, tip number one is to stop paying interest. Now, I know this is kind of be a sensitive subject because how can you not pay interest when you don't have enough money to afford to get the things that you want in life? And immediately I know the first thing we'll go to is maybe the mortgage. How can I not pay interest on my mortgage? Well, we're not talking about your mortgage. We're talking about credit card debt. We're talking about cars. We're talking about personal loans, financing furniture. Interest is the reason why we are broke because we are overspending for things that isn't worth the amount of money that we're spending on it.
Totally. Yeah, and even for houses, I think that we do need to acknowledge that the mortgage at some point, but let's first and foremost just tackle the day-to-day expenses and look at how much money we are being robbed of if we consider all the interest that we're paying out.
Right.
And then we'll get to the mortgage because you're spending a ton of money on interest there as well.
Right. Now, let's just isolate one of them, credit card debt.
Sure.
The average household has over $6,000 in credit card debt, revolving credit card debt. $6,194 to be exact. Now, that's huge because that money could be used to make more money. So if we're to follow one of the richest people in the world's advice on not losing money, then this is the perfect place to start. Totally. Stop overpaying on debt.
Yeah, and on items you can't afford. If you have to finance it through a credit card, then 9 times out of 10 you probably can't afford it in the first place.
Absolutely.
So don't use your credit card to finance items within your lifestyle if you can't afford it in the first place.
Now get this. The average interest rate on a credit card is 20% interest.
20%. When we saw that, we were like, this can't be right.
$6,194 is the average revolving debt, and 20% interest is the interest on that average interest on that credit card. So
that's crazy.
To face value, it says $6,194, but we're spending way more than that in principal and interest every single month. I think the minimum payment is $165.42.
Yep, I have the numbers here. So basically the minimum payment, like you just said, the interest that we end up paying is $9,916.68. And the total payment basically ends up being $16,110.68 if we're assuming that you're just keeping this revolving for 339 months.
339 months. We're paying $165.42, and we end up spending almost $20,000 out of pocket for a $6,194 revolving debt.
It's crazy. It's ridiculous.
Now, not only are we losing money, we're also losing our opportunity to make money because that money is gone.
$9,000 in interest?
$9,000 in interest.
That's more than the balance itself. If you think about that for a moment. Remember, the balance we said was $6,100, but you end up paying $9,900 just in interest.
Yes.
So when we talk about money that's leaving your household, everything that we talk about with banking, this is one example. And to Darius's point, the average household is $6,000. What if a revolving credit card debt? What if you have more than that? Now think about your cars. Think about everything else that you're financing. If it's medical, if it's personal loans, whatever it is, you're just tacking all of that interest on top of each other. And that's why we say all of this money is literally just being siphoned away from your income that you're working so hard for. And you don't even really know it because it's just normal to pay payments.
Yeah. Now, the title of this video is to stop doing this and you'll never be broke again. And what we want you to understand is that you're not actually broke. You actually have the money. You're just giving it away.
Yeah.
So if we can start putting ourselves in better financial situations and start taking a look at our finances and what's going on with each and every expense that we have or debt that we have, then we can start curbing that $9,000 to stop going away from us and start coming back to us and using those funds to make more money.
Exactly. So if you want to start taking over the banking functions in your life and bring back that interest into your household, then click on the link below. We would love to show you how to do so by joining the Wealth Nation. Now, we always talk about, recapturing money, recovering money, bringing it back. And that's what we do within the banking systems that we create for ourselves and for our clients. I think when Darius and I finally recognized this, because we own our own debt, where we have paid off all of the debts, but we're now making those minimum payments back to ourselves, because we would have still been on the hook for the 300 months for whatever it was for the revolving credit that we had. We recognized how much principal and interest was just literally being siphoned away every single month. And we had this epiphany where we're like, we're not broke. We got a ton of money, but we don't ever see it because Peter, Paul, Jimmy, Susie, and Larry is getting all the money.
Moving on to point number 2, we talked about revolving credit card debt. Let's talk about the second thing, and that is car loans. Now, cars have to have its own separate category for us because cars are a depreciating asset.
Correct.
So not only have we got a loan to buy this
From the
liability, but it's also losing money the longer we drive it. So the idea of it is, as we're making payments on this car to own it, we're just throwing money out the window because it's losing its value. Now, the person that owns the car note, the financial institution, they're making money because what you're doing is on that contract, you're paying interest and you're just using that car as collateral to get a loan from them.
Yeah.
That's fine with them.
Yeah.
But the problem is that we're overpaying for a depreciating asset. So not only are we losing it off top, we're also losing it on the bottom too.
And everywhere in between.
Yeah, so you're leaking on from the top and bottom.
Yeah, now, and then take into consideration, now we're just talking about the car. What happens when you go to the finance department because you're about to buy the car? It's extended warranties. Do you want this? Do you want that? Do you want this? The next thing you know, you leave home with a buffet of additions that you didn't even know that you needed or wanted.
Right.
And not only is the financial institution making all the interest back from you, now the dealership is making a ton of money back from you because of the
hidden fees.
The hidden fees and all the maintenance that you just added to this car that you don't even really need.
Right.
These days cars are built to be for longevity. You can drive cars a lot longer than you used to be able to do. The maintenance is a lot cheaper for the upkeep, but all of a sudden you're buying these extended warranty packages because you think that you need it, and you really don't need it these days. So now all of those fees are tacked on top of the sticker price of the car, and you're paying interest on all of it. So the car may have started at 25 grand. You leave the
dealership.
You leave the dealership maybe 25. What did I say? That the car might have been 20,000. Now you have maybe a $25,000 balance or a $30,000 balance because of all these additions that you added.
And as soon as you drive out the parking lot, you may lose
all of it,
75-50% in value, and you are paying a $25,000 loan on a $10,000 property or car.
Yeah, and that's why we did a video before where we were saying that we were speaking to our accountant, and he very slyly was like, what did he say? He said,
can you afford to invest in a depreciating asset?
Thank you. And basically, because we were talking about a car purchase that we were going to make, and we wanted a pretty expensive car. And he reminded us again, because we're human and we got to be held accountable. He reminded us again of, hey, remember this is a depreciating asset, so don't tie up all of your money in this luxury or whatever you want to call it, because it's a depreciating asset.
Yeah, and he said that I have a Mercedes, but I also have a Kia, and I like driving a Kia more, and it has more value than my Mercedes does.
Yeah, exactly. And he was even talking about how he was getting rid of his Mercedes because of just the value. So we're going on a rant now, but basically, again, we want to make sure that you understand these things, because when we started buying cars, we didn't understand this. We got really into just the thought of the luxury of a car, or maybe because we were buying it for somebody else, not necessarily ourselves. And when we recognize that, this car, what at the end of the day, what is it supposed to do? It's supposed to take you from point A to point B.
Yeah, and one thing
and not break your bank.
Maybe because we're not car people, but we started to realize that some of the SUVs kind of look alike anyway. The only thing that's different is the lights on it. So why are we spending more money for this brand versus that brand when they kind of all look alike anyway.
Yeah.
Now, again, I'm not a car guy, so don't beat me up too much saying these cars look alike, but that's just how I feel.
Yeah. And granted, I mean, we understand different companies have different features and services and things like that. But when you think about high level, we're just talking about wheels and engines.
Yeah.
So why spend a ton of money on this specific expense when you could save more money and do more to bring more money into your household that's more productive? I think that's what we're trying to get to. Use your money in a more productive way instead of tying it all up inside your vehicles where you're not going to get any value from it.
And going back to what Warren Buffett said, rule number 1, don't lose money.
Yes.
Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. He's a multi-billionaire, so we should be taking advice from billionaires, and we should copy processes from billionaires. Why not? Because they have all the money.
Yeah.
We continue to take advice from people that don't have money, and we end up with getting the similar results. So if we want the results of someone's wealthy, let's stop doing these things so that we can avoid being broke.
Well, success leaves breadcrumbs.
Success does leave breadcrumbs. Now, the third point that we want to make is going to be a little sensitive subject, and that is giving away money to family and friends. Now, it's perfectly fine if you want to give away money to family and friends, but you also have to acknowledge the fact that the money that you gave away to your family or friend who needs it, you also lost your opportunity to make money for yourself.
Oh, yes. And it is a sensitive subject because there are loved ones and we always want to help people out. But what we don't realize is that we're also enabling them to continue to have the bad habits that they're having in the first place, which is asking you for money. Instead of managing their money, they're asking for money. So they're taking money out of your pocket. So let's just have that conversation. So now that we understand that, we have to remember to simplify exactly what Darius was saying. Every time you're giving money away, you're losing your ability to earn money. And regardless if you're giving it to family and friends, you have it tied up in your vehicles, or you have it tied up in interest payments, every single dollar that you are giving away, you're losing your ability to earn it. You know, a lot of people are so interested in, I want to invest, I want to do Bitcoin, I want to do stocks, I want to do real estate, whatever it is. How are you going to be able to do it if you're continuing to give all this money away? And it's affecting your ability to invest, to create cash flow, because you're tied up with so much money that you have over here and you're leaking money everywhere else.
Yeah, and it's okay to give money to your church. It's okay to donate money because those are all tax write-offs that you can put on your tax forms, talk to your accountant about. But when you give money to family and friends, that's not a tax write-off. That's just lost money. So let's start having a conversation with our family and friends as to why they need the money and what circumstances led them to the situation that they're currently in. And the reason why we say that is because that's what we do when we're asked for money, because money itself is a business. It doesn't have any emotion attached to it. So if a family member asks us for money, it's just, I guess, built in. It's business. It's, why do you need money? What led to you asking us for money, and how much money are we going to make back? Because the money that we give you, that's money that our daughter doesn't get to appreciate in her future. That's money that's being taken away from her.
Absolutely. And people don't even want to have that conversation. So the fact that you have to come and answer those questions up front literally leaves people by the wayside, where they're just like, I don't even want to deal with it. Let me go ask somebody else.
Yeah, and by setting that standard to have that conversation about the money that you worked hard for and not giving it away, like, that also sets the standard for them whether or not they feel like they can ask you for the money. Because at the end of the day, it's easy to find money from anywhere. Money is easy to come by.
Yeah.
Especially the money that comes with debt, with interest.
Yeah.
It's really easy to find that.
Yeah, and I think you just easily laid out a simple conversation that can be had with you really understanding how to start respecting the funds that you have in the first place. Because I know for me, this was something that I needed to learn. We didn't just out of the gate understand this, but as we started to practice some of these things and really started to take the emotion away from it, again, it's not easy. It is very difficult to take the emotion away from it, especially when you're dealing with loved ones. But when you recognize recognize that this is not an emotional situation and this is all about business. And so once you're able to kind of curb that thought process or that ideology that you may have had, it's really about just making sure that you understand what's happening, because every dollar, again, like we're talking about, that you give away, you're losing your ability to get ahead. So in addition, if you're giving money out to your loved ones, you're also hindering their ability to get ahead as well, because you're not teaching them how to do more for themselves.
Right.
You're teaching them to continue to be dependent.
Right. So in our family, what we do is we have conversations about money and how we want to make more money, not just Carmen and I, but with our parents, with our siblings. How can we come together and have a better understanding of money, more of a financial literacy as a unit? And what can we do to put ourselves in situations where we can earn interest so that we can leave more money for our own families?
And again, we're painting the picture like everything is hunky-dory, fine and dandy, and it gets better. But I'm saying it's always a work in progress, because you have to remember, everyone who's involved, we all have different programmings, we all have different wants and needs and ideologies on what we think about money. But the fact of the matter is just starting and having conversations about what's going on. That's what we really feel is the most important thing. So it's going to take time. There might be a lot of interesting conversations that come from this, colorful conversations that come from this. But at the end of the day, your family is your family, and you all can come, if you can come together and work together, you can get so much further ahead,
right?
As opposed to working away from each other independently.
Right. So the 3 things that you should stop doing right now is, first, carrying a revolving credit card debt. The average credit card revolving debt is $6,194 at 20% interest. It takes 339 months to pay that off using that minimum payment. So if we can stop doing that, we can save ourselves about $9,000. The second thing that you need to stop doing right now is paying interest on cars. And the reason why is because not only are you paying interest on that car, you're also paying interest on something that is depreciating every single day that you drive it. So not only are you losing money by giving it away, you're also losing money in the value of the asset.
Absolutely.
Do not invest in a depreciating asset.
Totally.
Number 3 is stop giving away money to family and friends. And it's okay to go and have experiences, but what's not okay is for you to give away money that you could have otherwise invested and made more money. Now, if you invest that money and made money first, then that's fine. Actually, it's still not fine, but just for those of you who really want to give your money away, make money first and then you
give them the interest, the money that you made from it.
Yeah, give them the money you made from it.
Principal.
Yeah, don't touch the principal, because that's taking away your opportunity to make money.
Yeah, I think it's a good summary of what you did, of what you just said, because at the end of the day, like we said, it's all about just reevaluating the money that's leaving your pockets.
Right.
And we just need to do a better job of understanding all the money that's leaving us, because again, when we first started in our financial journey, we didn't even understand this information. So that's why we feel like it's important to continue to share this knowledge, because it's simple things, but it becomes simple once you are exposed. With exposure, you're able to expand your mind beyond leaps and bounds and things that you never thought that you could accomplish. So that's why today is all about exposure and making sure that you understand credit cards, cars, and loved ones are draining your pockets.
Right. And just to go back to Mr. Warren Buffett, rules of success is to never lose money. Rule number 2 is to never forget rule number 1. And if there's anything that you can take away from this video, is the fact that it costs you more to lose money, because not only are you losing money, you're losing your ability to make money off of that money. How we are managing our money. Some of us aren't doing anything.
Head in the sand.
Yep, and that's the reason why a lot of us are in the situations that we're currently are in, because we choose to do nothing. And when I say choose to do nothing, that's starting with paying yourself first. If you don't pay yourself first and wait to the end, a lot of times there isn't any money left over, so you can pay yourself, or you can save. Now, by you being able to save money, that also gives you the ability to have some money to invest. Now, if we aren't doing the very first thing, then it's really hard to do everything else after that.
Because there's no money for you to invest.
by paying yourself first. So to expound on exactly what you're talking about, if people aren't doing anything, so one, you're not paying yourself first, and or two, you're just doing what everyone else is doing and blindly putting your money in places that you don't understand. One being your retirement accounts. Do you understand what's happening with your retirement accounts, or are you just putting money in there because your employer says to do it? And oh, by the way, they're dangling some cash match, the advantage of that for you. Do you understand really what's happening? Do you understand taxes, how that can all be implicated upon? Do you understand the penalties and the fees that are involved with it? You know, a lot of times that we find when people get involved is they get all these financial products because they're checking the box, but then they just don't understand what they got themselves into. And then unfortunately, because you don't understand what you got yourself into, that can be even worse because you just don't understand how the product works, and you can end up losing money.
Yeah. Now, at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with investing in your retirement account. What we're saying is that's not enough.
Yes.
You can invest in your retirement account and still be broke. What you have to do is you have to not only sacrifice today for tomorrow, but you have to really save money and kind of scale back on the souped up fancy car, because that's not putting any money in your pocket. What you have to do is you have to figure out a way, figure out an amount that gets you from point A to point B, not necessarily in style, because you can be investing that style in another stream of income. What investing in our retirement accounts or 401ks, what that does is it only has us covered in one asset class. Now, what we want to have is multiple asset classes for us in the event something happened. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? But if it does, let's have multiple streams of income or multiple asset classes so that we can benefit on multiple levels.
Yeah, and really, it's just about going back to exactly what I was saying before, education. So don't get caught up in the things that you think should happen.
Like analysis paralysis and not do anything. Yeah. Not doing anything is what has you in the... is what 80% of the people are doing. They think if they just check the box and invest in their 401k, then they're fine.
Or the analysis paralysis comes into play where you take years and years and years to research something and you don't get involved. Mm-hmm. And then that's years that you spent where your money wasn't making any money for you.
Right.
So you should always make sure that you educate yourself. The whole reason why you're probably watching this video in the first place is because you're looking for information. Continue doing that. Good job for you. And if you want to learn how to make your money make money, then click on the link below so Wealth Nation can bless you and continue to educate you with understanding how you can create generational wealth for your family and how you can get in the driver's seat of your own banking needs.
Right.
Now, going back to the education piece of things, the other thing that we feel that really handicaps people with their finances is they entrust in someone else to manage their money for them. Mm-hmm. And we always say on this channel, no one else is going to care about your money more than you. Mm-hmm. More than you. So if you have somebody that's advising you, you need to figure out where they're putting their money. What are they doing? How are they doing it? Why are they suggesting that you do the things that you do? And if that's the case, why aren't they putting their money where they're suggesting that you put your money? You have to think about all these things and put some context to it, because if you're thinking about investing, I don't care if it's stocks, real estate, cryptocurrency, you better understand the ins and outs, the exit strategies and everything that comes into play so that you can make sure your money is protected at the end of the day.
Right. And when Carmen was mentioning, she said you a lot. What that means is you need to take the action. Without taking any action, you don't get any results. And that's what happens for a lot of us. We think that, again, we keep going back to checking the box of the 401k. The 401k is great, but it's not enough so that it can set you up for the retirement that you want to have in your future. The decisions that we make today is what really, really affects us in our future.
Mm-hmm. And you're being nice. You say the 401k is great. Not hating on it, but it's not great because it's not.
It's better than nothing.
It doesn't put you in the driver's seat. It allows you just to be passive and not do anything with your money. But I see what you're saying. If you don't have a plan, at least do something.
Do something.
Yeah. The other thing that I would say too is we live for today and not tomorrow. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of reason why people are broke. It's because they look at all of the amazing things, and you were touching on this, shiny cars, shiny objects, whatever it is. They look at all these things that, oh, I want right now, but then they don't understand the financial implications of you could have taken half of that money, invested it, created cash flow, money that's working for you, and now that's setting you pretty for tomorrow instead of literally spending every dollar that you have on something that isn't going to necessarily bring value back to your life tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think what also happens is a lot of times people give excuses as to why they can't do something or shouldn't do something or why they're not investing, but there isn't enough conversation around what you're doing and why you're doing it. So if you can start having conversations around what you're thinking about doing, why you're researching what you're researching, and why this is a good idea for you to continue to educate yourself on this particular asset class, then continue putting your energy into that so that you can move forward and invest, because some money is better than no money. A lot of people will, again, give you excuses why they're not investing. That means they're not making any money. Or some people may say, hey, you should do this, when they're not doing it with their own money. Yeah. So really take these things into consideration, and don't let all the noise distract you from taking action. Imperfect action is better than not doing anything.
Yeah. And to play on that, another reason why we probably don't do anything, what do you think it is?
Analysis paralysis.
Fear.
Oh, yeah.
Fear. We're scared. We're like, no. I'm gonna sit over here because I don't want to get over there because I don't have the time. Everybody says that I don't have the time to learn about it. No, you have the time. That you don't want to.
Right.
Let's just be clear about that. Everyone who says I don't have the time, no, it's because you choose not to get involved. So you have all of the time in the world. So what is keeping you from getting involved? Is it fear? What about investing? What about creating cash flow is intimidating for you? And you need to figure out that pretty quickly, because if you don't, you're going to get to retirement, you're going to get to next year, and you're going to go, what do I have to show for myself? I have nothing in the bank, nothing to show for myself. And what am I? I'm broke. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, and I have no other assets that I've invested in, that there's nothing working for me.
Yeah, there's no in the world you can get the results you want without the effort. So if there it's not a money commitment that you can make because you're not paying yourself first and you don't have any savings, then the alternative is to have a time commitment. If you don't have the ability to have a time commitment because you think other things are important, maybe you should look and see, like, why don't you have the time? Is it because you want to spend more time with your friends? Is it because you want to spend more time traveling? What things that you're spending your time doing is actually making you money outside of your job, outside of your employment? Because if you want to make more money, you have to do something. You have to create a side business. Is it the fact that you have to wake up an hour early so that you can work on your business? Is it the fact that you can go to sleep when everybody else in the house is asleep? You can work on your business. What are some of the sacrifices that you want to make today so that you can have a positive financial future?
Yes. So now let's flip the script. And you were alluding to this. Exactly are the things that you need to do to get unstuck. So the first thing is determine cash flow. How do you want to create cash flow? Do you want a passive play, meaning where you want to invest a certain amount of time or a certain amount of money one time and then let the money come in from a residual income, so to speak? Or do you want to have a more active play, meaning do you want to trade time for money? You have to decide what that works. And not everybody's going to want to do the same thing. That's why I'm sharing options. Okay. So we have to think about that. Are we going to have to work more hours at work? Hopefully not. Or are we going to do a side hustle?
Right.
Whatever it is. And then from that side hustle, or the money that you're paying yourself first, hopefully you're doing that, right? What are you doing with those funds to make more money? What we always talk about on the Wealth Nation channel is the power of banking, creating your own banking system so that you can make that money work for you. So you need to put your money into your own banking system and then figure out what are the things that I'm passionate about. Whatever subject matter expert that you are, figure out how you can put some money in that avenue that's going to make money for you so that you tomorrow, the next day, next year, next 20 years is covered because that money is out working for you and that you have a plan for it. Far too often, and we're preaching to the choir. You know,
Right.
we are not pointing fingers at you guys at all. We're speaking to the Darius and Carmen 10 years ago who weren't super responsible with money or even knew, right? Because we were ignorant to a lot of these things. Is just realizing that you have opportunities. You are worthy of creating more income for yourself. Don't ever doubt that you can't create more income. Everyone has the potential to make more money, especially with the digital resources that we have these days. So just take an honest look at what are some things that you want to do so that you can start creating cash flow and you can become unstuck.
Yeah. And the foundation of how you prevent brokenness is to create habits that allow you to make more money. It's all about the habits that you create. The reason why you have the results that you have that you may like or may not like is the habits that you created so that you can get these particular results. The results are the fruit, but your roots create your fruit. Your roots are the habits that you have. and you need to create habits around educating yourself so that you can make sure whenever an opportunity presents itself, you can look at the information and understand whether or not it's a good fit for you or not. Absolutely. Because when it comes to risk, there's risk involved when you don't know about a particular product or service.
But that should be the only risk that you do not take. That the risk is you're uneducated. You don't understand the position in which you're about to get involved in. There should never be any sort of risk when it comes to investing. And if there is, you should invest in it because you shouldn't put yourself in a position to lose money.
Right.
Never.
And that's because you haven't educated yourself. You haven't made that particular niche or asset class a habit for you, a habitual habit where you continue to study, get information, make small moves so that you can see the results of some of the actions that you're taking.
Very good point. So we're making sure, one, that we share this information with you, and then two, that we give you some tangible things that you can do. Far too often we overlook the things that we're good at, and we don't realize that we can be making money from it, or that we can, like I said earlier, become unstuck. That there is never a solution in this world where you can't make more money, where you can't do something better for yourself. All it takes is just a little bit of effort every single day. 30 minutes every single day will change your world. So start reading, start watching videos, start looking around and figuring out how you can bring more money into your existence. It's going to come with a lot of mindset training. So go ahead and look up some YouTube videos if you don't look at ours for some mindset, understanding how you interact with money, how behavioral finances come into play, and then take that information, then go, all right, I'm ready to level up and figure out how can I start creating more cash flow so that my mind doesn't affect my play.
Right. I like the way you put that. It's okay to make money from something that you're passionate at. Yeah. What's not okay is not taking the responsibility and not taking action. That's how you end up being the 80% of the people who are broke because they haven't taken any action on the information, the unlimited amount of information that we're surrounded with and opportunities that exist all around us in action.
Oh, I'm so glad that you said that. And you know what I realized? We could have used one word to describe this whole video.
What's that?
Ownership. Think about that. Ownership. The 78 or the 80% of people who are broke, you have not taken ownership over your finances. You've either just let it slide, or you've let someone else take ownership, which is still letting it slide because you're not in control.
Right.
So someone else managing your finances, are you fearful of taking any action, or are you just not doing anything about it? And all of that is lack of ownership. So that's the one thing that we say all the time on the Wealth Nation channel is you need to own your own lifestyle, whether that be finances, whether that be health, whether that be your spiritual life, whatever it is, you need to take ownership of everything that you do in life because we have one life and you got to make the most of it and stop allowing someone else to do it for you.
Yeah, you can't let somebody else manage your money for you because what happened is they end up making more money from your money than you from your own. Let's think about the last time we got a checkup. The last time we got a checkup on our health was probably when something went wrong. And whenever something goes wrong is when we go to the doctor for help.
Yep.
Now, the doctors are able to fix anything as long as you have the right medical insurance and you can afford to pay the copay. And then what do? They prescribe you with 8 pills a day that you have to take every day that addresses the symptoms, but it doesn't fix the root cause. Now, the side effect of taking these pills could be worse than the actual problem itself. Yeah. Because again, we fix the symptoms and not the root cause. Now, the same thing can be applied when it comes to our money. Yeah. Whenever something goes wrong is when we want to run to the bank so they can give us money to help fix our problems. Now, when it comes to the bank, the only thing that we have to do is make sure that we have good credit and we can afford to make the principal and interest payments that they send to us. Now, the only thing we have to do is afford the monthly minimum payments. Now, the side effect to this is the problem isn't fixed. It only addresses the symptoms. At the end of the day, you can create a bigger problem than what you had in the first place.
Totally. And you're spending a lot more money.
Exactly.
So what we want you to do, if you need help with understanding your financial health, then definitely click on the link below to join our currency crash course, because this course was designed specifically for you to help you discover where you are and bridge that gap to get you to where you need to be. So with that said, let's jump to the very first point. And the very first point that we want to ask you ready? Get ready for this question, is can you manage your day-to-day expenses without credit? And when I say without credit, I'm not talking about trying to get points or whatever the case may be. I'm just saying, can you afford your day-to-day expenses without credit? Now, if you answered no to this question, then maybe it's because one of two things. Maybe we have some spending issues. Maybe we're overspending, living above our means. Or the second thing is maybe you don't produce enough to bring home enough bacon to afford your lifestyle. Now, either way, these are both a problem. Either you're not producing enough or you're overspending. So what we want you to do is just take inventory of your current financial health. Because if you have to rely on credit to get you through the months, then you are significantly behind the 8 ball, my friend. And we're not judging you. We're just trying to help you understand that this is not okay. And you need to create a plan to be able to make sure that you can afford your lifestyle with the cash that you got in the bank.
And at the end of the day, these are symptoms to having a bad financial health.
Exactly. Yeah, because when you're dependent on the credit cards, you are not addressing the root cause. And the root cause is either overspending or you need to figure out a way to generate more income.
Absolutely.
Or both.
Now, the second point that we want to make is, can you manage a financial hardship without credit? That's key. Can you afford to take care of any financial situation that comes up without having to use credit?
And again, we're not talking about points. Can you pay for it outright?
Right, because at the end of the day, what credit does is it addresses the symptom. It helps you out temporarily, but at the end of the day, it's going to put you further and further in debt. Mm-hmm. And debt is something that takes money out of your household and drives it away from it. Mm-hmm. We don't want to do that if we want to maintain a good financial lifestyle or maintain a healthy financial lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. In addition to the credit, I mean, sometimes people dive into their 401ks, their pensions, other alternative sources of financing where they may have a nest egg. So again, the question is, if a financial hardship comes up, can you pay for it with your checkings account or the savings account? Not anything else. Because again, if you're relying on other sources of financing, you're behind the 8 ball.
Right, and that means that you don't have control. Until you start taking control of your financial health, then someone else will continue controlling it for you. And I came to this realization when I was laid off. Yes, it was a very hard time for us and something hard for me to comprehend. But what I did is I realized that it was my fault that this happened.
Yeah.
What happened was a company came and bought the company that I was working for and moved it to another state. Now, the reason why this was my responsibility is because I was the one that made the decision to work for this company. I was the one that made the decision to accept this salary. So once I started taking responsibility and ownership for the things that happened, then I realized that I can control more of my financial future because I can control the amount of money I make, I can control the source of my income, and I can control how much I work for said money. And that's one of the reasons why we created the currency course, so that we can also help you come to that realization to bridge that gap between where you are now and where you want to be.
Yes. Now, one thing that Darius said that I really want to make sure that you all understood was when he was saying that he was laid off was he took responsibility for it. You know, a lot of times we like to blame others for things that happen to us. But at the end of the day, what is the root cause? He was dependent on someone else to provide him an income. Mm-hmm. And when you sign on that dotted line and agree to work for someone, you also have to realize that you're accepting everything else that can come with it. So again, when we're talking about dependency is, are you dependent on your employer to make sure that your bills get paid? Are you dependent on credit to make sure financial hardships are paid? Are you dependent on credit to make sure your bills get paid? If you are dependent, then we have a problem that needs to be addressed.
Right. As soon as you blame somebody else for your situation, that means that somebody else has control over your life and you don't.
Ding,
so
ding,
take
ding.
responsibility of that and control it yourself.
Exactly. All right. Now, the third point is, are you on track to meet your financial goals? Do you even have financial goals to begin with? Let's think about that for a minute. Are you on track to meet your financial goals? And do you even have financial goals to begin with? Now, we're asking these difficult questions for you today because we realize sometimes people don't ask these questions. And a lot of times we don't even know that we need to have financial goals to begin with. We just know that the income's coming in, we can pay our bills and we're good. But what goals do you want to set up for yourself? Do you want to have a certain amount of money in savings? Do you want to be able to invest? Do you want to be able to create a business? What do you want to do? Because all of these things are going to be affected by the amount of income that you're generating.
Right, because if we can only see just the month in front of us by the income that we have coming in, that's how we start getting into trouble. Because if we just start living for the next day, there's years and years that's left on our lives that we need to start considering and goals that we need to set up in order to address some of those financial things. Absolutely. The average life expectancy moving forward is going to be about 95. Now, if you're 30 and you're still living from paycheck to paycheck, then you have a huge problem. Maybe not now, but eventually it's going to rear its ugly head. And then what are you going to do to take care of it?
Yeah, we are no longer living for our future selves. We're only living for our current self. Mm-hmm. So again, what are the financial goals that you want to create for yourself? And there's none that are too small or too big. You really have to take the time to discover what it is that you want to do. And you can do that with our currency course.
Right. So if you answer no to any of the 3 questions that we asked, then you have to start taking responsibility and looking at the root cause,
yes,
not the symptoms.
So the moral of the story is do not neglect your financial health, because what will happen is you'll be put into a worse situation because you'll be dependent on someone else to bail you out. And now you have to spend more money in principal and interest when you could have been saving that money for yourself or investing to make more money for your household.
So know that you have control of your financial health and use that control to create the life that you want. Are you looking for more information on this topic? Then check out our next video where you'll learn some financial habits that will make you wealthy.
And we're going to leave you with a quick preview for the next video. Remember to own your own lifestyle,
or someone else will.